How did a leader, once hailed as a bulwark against Libyan expansionism, become one of Africa's most notorious dictators? Hissenè Habrè, the former president of Chad, ascended to power with substantial backing from foreign allies who saw him as pivotal in their geopolitical strategies. Initially perceived as a stabilizing force, Habre's rule promised to shield Central Africa from external threats and internal discord. Yet the sheen of stability soon gave way to shadows as his governance took a darker turn. This is the story of Hissenè Habrè, a leader whose legacy is as controversial as it is dark. Born in 1942 in Faya Largeau, Hissenè Habre's journey to power began in the sands of northern Chad. From these humble beginnings, Habrè was marked by a sharp intellect and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. His academic prowess earned him a scholarship to France, where he studied political science, immersing himself in the theories that would one day underpin his leadership. Upon his return to Chad, Habrè did not slip quietly into the backdrop of academia. Instead, he plunged into the turbulent waters of Chadian politics, at a time when the country was marred by civil strife and political instability. His involvement initially began with the Frolinat, a rebel group opposing the central government, where his strategic acumen quickly propelled him through the military ranks. By the late 70s, Habrè had not only become a significant figure within the group, but had assumed leadership of the Frolinat armed forces. His rise was characterized by a keen ability to navigate the complex tribal and political landscapes of Chad. With a combination of strategic prowess and ruthless ambition, Habrè seized control of Chad in 1982, beginning his 8-year rule. Under Hissenè Habrè, Chad experienced unprecedented levels of state-sponsored violence. As the leader of this Central African nation from 1982 to 1990, Habrè's rule was characterized by widespread human rights abuses that have left an indelible mark on the history of the country. The political police force, known as the Directorate of Documentation and Security, or DDS, was Habrè's instrument of control. Under his command, the DDS became notorious for its brutal tactics. Detention centers, such as the infamous La Piscine, turned into sites of horror where perceived enemies of the state were brought in, often without any form of legal process. Inside these walls, the air was thick with the fear of torture, a common practice aimed at extracting confessions or simply instilling terror. Methods ranged from electric shocks to waterboarding, and worse. The echoes of the suffering from these chambers tell a story of a regime that placed little value on human life or dignity. Arbitrary arrests were rampant, a mere whisper or suspicion could have someone disappear without a trace. Families were torn apart not knowing the fate of their loved ones, many of whom would never return. It's estimated by Human Rights Watch that about 40,000 people perished under Habrè's regime, a staggering toll that speaks volumes of the cruelty that was exercised. Habrè's regime, marked by fear and brutality, left a deep scar on the nation and its people. The winds of change would eventually sweep across Chad, leading to Hissenè Habre's downfall. As the 80s drew to a close, Habrè's grip on power weakened amidst escalating accusations of oppression and human rights violations. It was during this turbulent time that Idriss Déby, once a trusted advisor turned rival, launched a decisive military campaign. In December of 1990, Déby successfully overthrew Habré, who then fled to Senegal, marking the end of his tyrannical regime. Exiled yet not forgotten, Habré lived quietly until 2013, when he was arrested in Senegal. This arrest was the culmination of relentless efforts by human rights groups and victims of his brutal regime seeking justice for the atrocities committed. His trial, which began in 2015 in Senegal, was unprecedented. It was the first time a former head of state was prosecuted in a foreign court for human rights abuses. This historic trial, conducted by the extraordinary African Chambers, ultimately found Habré guilty of crimes against humanity, war crimes, and torture. Habre's conviction in 2016 was a landmark moment for justice in Africa, but it was only the beginning of a long healing process for Chad. The story of Hissenè Habrè is a complex tapestry of ambition, power, and human suffering. As we delve into the echoes of his regime, we see a Chad deeply scarred by years of conflict and oppression. Habré's rule, marked by severe human rights abuses, casts a long shadow over the nation, influencing its political dynamics even today. The ramifications extend beyond Chad's borders, stirring a broader discourse on governance in Africa. Habre's dictatorship is a poignant chapter in the narrative of African politics, highlighting the delicate balance between authority and tyranny. Today, Chad continues to grapple with political instability and challenges in governance. The international community's role in bringing Habré to justice underscores the importance of global cooperation in addressing violations of human rights and in supporting fair governance. As we reflect on these issues, it becomes evident that the path to resilient and ethical leadership is fraught with complexities. Hissenè Habre's legacy serves as a grim reminder and a call to vigilance for the leaders of tomorrow.